Hi, everybody. Welcome. How are you today? Good. Thanks for coming into the Atomic Museum. If you don't know me, I'm Matt. I'm the Director of Education here at the museum. Thank you so much for coming out today for this special event we've got. This is our next installment of Stories from the Atomic Age. This is our lifelong learning series that we have here at the museum. And this series aims to place a personal lens on the life and work that was done during the time of nuclear testing. And today, today's talk is Leading Legacy and the Last Nuclear Test. And it's presented by our very special guest today, who we're very happy to have with us, Mr. James Hollins. James was the project leader for the first joint nuclear test with the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, and for the last United States test divider back in 1992. He's had other respected positions with Los Alamos and has numerous honors as well. Please help me in welcoming James Hollins.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. Thanks, Matt, for this great introduction. And welcome, everybody. I just wanted to give my perspective on the legacy and leading on the U.S. last nuclear test. And I wasn't sure I was going to make it here today. I got caught up in that lotto fever, and I thought, that was going to give me a problem. But I'm here today, and everything is going fine. So I was born and raised in northeast Louisiana, a place called Marouge. It's a small farming town. And I had great parents that instilled good core values in our lives. And it was one of the ones that they wanted to make sure that we got a good education. And what we did, they wanted us to study hard and make sure we trust in the Lord. And I had great role models that I looked up to, my parents, 3 siblings, my older brother, and 2 sisters. And my education background, following in my brother's footsteps, I got a BS in civil engineering from Louisiana Tech University. And I also got organization master's management from University of Phoenix, and also went to Los Alamos Leadership Development Supervisor Management Program and System Engineering Program in certificate in the University of Las Vegas, Nevada. And also I am a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. And this is where it all started. Here in 1981, I was back at Louisiana Tech University getting ready to graduate. I got a call from a man by the name of Frank Beers, called and offered me a job and asked me did I want to take it, and I said sure. And so one of the things that I ended up doing, I accepted the job. I went and got married to my wife, walked across the stage to get my diploma, and it was her birthday. I did all of that in 48 hours. And I said to myself, I had to be ready to take on this job here. And so that's kind of pretty much how it started. So from 1981 to 1984, I became one of the project engineers for Hollins and Narver, and they supported Los Alamos National Laboratory in Design and Engineering. Now, in 1984, I actually had just been there for about 3 years. I had a guy by the name of Bob Roush. Bob Roush, do you still hear me there? Bob Roush came in and said, hey, can you come to my office? And I got to a point like, oh man, what did I do now? And I went over there to see him. He sat me down in his office. He said, James, I've been watching you for the last 2 to 3 years, and everything is looking pretty good on your side. You work well with my event engineers, and they really admire working with you, and I'd like to offer you a job. And I said, Bob, doing what? And because actually I was in my mid-20s at that time, so everybody else was anywhere from 10 to 15 years older than me. He said, I want you to be one of my event engineers leading the test. He said, I got confidence in you, and I want to make sure that you get this opportunity to do this. So I accepted the job, and so from 1984 to 1992, I was involved heavily in nuclear testing. We was averaging anywhere from 3 to 5 nuclear events a year, just me by myself. And we had, I would say, about 4 to 5 engineers that was pretty much spread out everywhere, just doing a lot of events. Now, this is only just Los Alamos. You had Livermore, you had DOD, and Sandia that was also involved in different testing. So we had quite a bit of work that was going on out at the test site at that time. So from 1992 to 94, I became, after this was divided, had pretty much ended in the moratorium, I was selected as one of the event engineers to work the subcritical testing. So I ended up doing that for 2 years. Then I got another call from the Los Alamos, one of the project managers that was working on the Yucca Mountain project. He said, I heard about the way that you can schedule and do your calculation and design. I would like for you to come work for me at the Yucca Mountain project. And I couldn't pass that one up because it was opportunity to work in town since I had been working out at the test site for so long. So I took that opportunity and I worked from there from 1984 to 2008. And political reason came across, and they was pretty much scaling down. So I took the opportunity there to pretty much retire, and then the next year I came back and worked out at Nevada test site again. And this is where I ended up working at the DAF facility. And as soon as I got there, I think the first day I got there, they pulled me in and started pulling me to a point where they wanted me to start working that very same day. I hadn't even got through orientation yet. But my position was get in there, be the event engineer, make decisions as soon as possible. And I got to a point, it seemed like it was like every 2 months I was getting promoted to another position until around, I would say 2018, I became the executive deputy for the DAF facility. And that's one of the ones that I was pretty much in charge of a whole bunch of things. I approved all of the integrated schedule, working with Washington, all of the laboratories, and pretty much approving all of the work that was going on out at the site. And so on September 23rd, 1992, you know, this is Divider. It was the last underground nuclear test. It was the 154th before the moratorium took effect. And it was 47 years early with the Trinity test. And if you all don't know, the Trinity test was the first nuclear test that was actually done by Robert Oppenheimer. If you haven't had a chance to see the movie or hear about his story, please look at that. It's very interesting. And memories of Divider? Well, let's go back. I was sitting at my office there at Ground Zero. We was doing pretty much work as far as daily schedule. And I got a call from my test director. My test director said, James, I got a call from upper management, and they wanted to know if you can move the schedule up. And he gave me a certain date to go by. And I said, I'm not sure if I can do it or not, but let me get with all my team members and get together my resources and see if we can do it. So I will get back to you as soon as possible. And so we're doing all this research and making sure we had the capability to do it. I came back and said, yes, we can do it, but it's going to require pretty much working around the clock to meet this date. So once we got that done, put together the schedule, it was accepted. And the rest is history. We was able to get things done quite a bit faster, and therefore you all know when this was over with, this was the last nuclear test. Now, just to go back, this is me, of course, with the little red area. This is my crew. We're in the process. This is what they call a diagnostic rack, and this is the connector plate. And once we get everything set in place, and just to back up a little bit, I have to go back and forth, me and the event engineers, to talk to the design engineers and others to get all this stuff put together as far as to plan what we wanted to do. So once it is approved and the rack is built, it is sent to the event engineers, and we in the process of putting together the cables. And you can see right here, this is what they call a connector plate. And these cables right here runs all the way back to the Afro Park, and they'll connect to the diagnostic trailers. And so once we get that completed, our next process is to get this vertical. And you can see there that arrow again. And this is me. And right underneath this is actually where the device goes. And once we get that connected and everything is sealed in, we seal that, and then they turn it back over to me in order for to get this operation going. I have to take this one down. I think it was approximately about 1,400 feet. And once you got it down, you put it into a position where it was planned. Any deviation would cause problems with your gas blocks and things like that. And so once we get that completed, we sometimes usually have what we call a TV rack. TV rack is one of those cameras that a millimeter second at a time, just before detonation, it would capture the detonation, and so the scientists can check and make sure everything is correct and according to the way they have designed it. And so this gives them a lot of information of what they can do as far as to fix the next one and all. But this one right here is pretty much the one we do. We set this right on top of that rack where it was before. And this is all goes into ground zero, and we build this tower. And I think these probably somewhere like 25 to 30 foot tower stacks here. And we bring the rack in there, and then I turn it over to a group called J7. And all of the users come in and get to a point where they hook up all the cables and everything. And from there, once it get completed, then we get back and it turn back over to me. So this is very interesting in the way things work, because when you get that completed, let me show you this. This is what ground zero looked like. These is all of the trailers here that all of the crafts and the supervisors work at. The rest of the people is back in the Afro Park, where they're in the diagnostic trailers. And this usually takes anywhere from 2 to maybe 2 months. It depends on the complexity of the instruments that they're using. And once they're completed, like I said, then I lower it down into a final position. Now, one of the things that's very interesting, this is a slide here showing ground zero after the device is lowered down at 1,400 feet. Now, this is still not exactly the way everything it worked, because I have to put all the documentation together, go before a containment board, which involve working with DOE, the landlord directors and managers, the contractors, directors and managers, and anybody else that have, I guess, any association with special projects that's going on there. I have to prove to them that everything was working and put in its exact spot that was according to plan. And any deviation will cause problems. And so once that is completed and I get the approval, we do final checks. They work and get together with the, I guess, the weather team to make sure the wind and everything is just right before they can do the detonation. And then once they get their final approval, this is what we end up with. If we can get it here. Here you can see ground zero lifting up and rocking the whole area. Now, this was very interesting because at the time this was taking place, I was in the director's office. They have what they have like a big bay window. I was able to see ground zero. And when looking at ground zero, I'm looking at it lift up. And all of a sudden I saw the seismic waves and the ground shock waves feeling it coming my way. And I'm still looking at it out of the window. And all of a sudden you can just see it spread out just like in a wave. And it was getting closer and closer to the building, and all of a sudden it hit it, boom. And I was like, oh man, it would start rocking me back, and I'm trying to grab on anything I can to keep from falling. But that's one of the most amazing things that I ever seen in my life. And so, to make long story short, this event was very successful, and we got very good kudos for getting it done ahead of time. Now, we do have, since I don't have many videos of pretty much of, I guess, Divider, I have some of other events and kind of give you a demonstration what a crater seismic looked like. Get this one going here. You see it subsiding there. That's what a nuclear weapon does to the ground. Now, these are some of the ones that was done around the 1980 areas and era. And I just wanted to capture this and make sure that everybody got a chance to see what took place. And you probably can find a lot of this on YouTube and other spots, but I just wanted to make sure people that haven't got a chance to see it. And this is another one that's probably about 3 minutes long, but this one got sounds to it, if I can get it to go. There we go.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0 time. Ten seconds to collapse.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0 time.
Ten seconds to collapse.
That's something you wouldn't want to be standing at ground zero at that time.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0 time.
10 seconds to collapse.
Ten,
10 seconds to collapse.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0 time.
Ten seconds to collapse.
All right. All right, hope you enjoyed that. And like I said, I thought that would be interesting for people to see exactly what goes on at the detonation. Now, even though I have done anywhere from 3 to 5 bits a year, some of the ones that is memorable to me, Chimita was one of my first one. And this is the one that was done in 1984. Ladue was the one that was in a 1,000-foot shaft U1A project. And it was 2 event engineers that was on this project. I pretty much did the upper side where I designed the trailers and also had the cables to go down the hole. I think we had a record number of cables, especially fiber optics, that I want to say anywhere from 300 to 500 cable that we had to get down the hole. And that normally you don't have no more than about 100 to 200 that goes on in an event, but this was very special and for us to get down. So it was very challenging to me. And then once I got all of this underground, I turned it over to my other colleague, which at that point was Richard Kovac, and he was the one that was orchestrating the leadership underground, which was like 1,000 foot. The next one here was Junction. This was the one that was involved with the Soviet Union. We had one that, it was a joint verification project. I worked pretty much with the Soviet Union and the on-site inspection agency. And this was very interesting because I had to get to a point where I had to work with this Soviet team every morning, and the U.S. inspection team was the one that came to a point where they had to do the translation, and they was there for the protocol, make sure everything was going right. So I got along well with the Russian, but I have to admit, we had some problems up there. This was in Area 19. We was always getting bad weather. I would say anywhere from 2 to 3 feet of snow at times, which pretty much kind of delayed the schedule. But we was able to get it done, and it turned out pretty good. But I think we did end up delaying for at least a month because of the weather condition. Now, very interesting, I got to the point I didn't like cold weather. I used to just put on a whole bunch of, clothing just to even step outside and do the inspection. And one day I had so many clothes on that I could barely walk. I was walking out of my shack, and then I looked up and then looked over there at one of the Russians. He walked outside with no shirt on. It had to be anywhere from in the single digits. And he was just laughing, but hey, I was warm. I didn't care at that point in time. And the last one, of course, is Divider. That's the one September the 23rd, 1992. And you see this is my card here, but don't call it number. I'm retired now, so. And I found this interesting. This is an article that was came out about 3 years after that. It was mentioning the treaty that President Clinton was talking about. He's saying that the nuclear testing at Nevada test site was facing extinction. and they was trying to get where they was going to go back to the subcritical testing, and that's the one that I said that I was involved in from 1992 to 94. And he talks about actually the kilotons, how much it was, and they also, we had, I think 4 Belgian protesters that they caught just before detonation, and they arrested them and, you know, fined them, put them in jail at that time. But I thought it was very interesting, and this was one of the ones that President Clinton was pushing. And here in this picture here, I'm not sure exactly, it said in 1957, this was the code name Doppler, and this was one of the atmospheric tests. Last but not least on this is my family, and I just wanted to give special thanks to my family, friends, mentors, and colleagues, which I do have a lot of colleagues here today and family members. And this is my father and mother, AC and Izola Hollins. This is my sister Hattie and Alice. And this is my older brother who is here, and this is me with him. I think this was at his retirement party. And of course, you can see I'm outnumbered here. This is my wife, Crystal, my daughter, Tiffany, and my youngest one, Christina. And I named them my rock and the 2 pebbles here because they always keep me on the right path. Now, I do have to admit, now I didn't add her on here. I have a little grand doggy. Her name is Lola. And I thought I had her on my side, but she got to a point, she switched over and went to the women, so I'm really outnumbered now, 41, so I have no hope, and whatever they say, it goes. Now, I always get the question, have you seen anything strange out at the test site? I say, your eyes and your mind can do pretty much anything I want you to see. And this is at a point where if you look at this and look at the instruction, tell me if you see anything. Did everybody look at the wall and see the picture? Okay, so you see what I say, your eyes and your mind can play a lot of tricks on you. So yes, I have seen a lot of strange things, but believing them, no, you can't at times, okay? It was just something that I wanted to point out. I always get that question. Now, this is something that I really wanted to read because it's dear, and I wrote this. My career has taken me from a small town to being the first Black American to be a leader in nuclear testing. I'm so honored to have been supported by my family, friends, and colleagues along the way. I didn't know where I would have been without all their support. They all believed in a young man trying to accomplish his dream. Lastly, I want people to know that if you put your mind to it, then nothing is impossible in this world. Dream big. Yeah. And then my parents always had a saying, where there's a will, there's a way. So you can get anything done. Okay? So, thank you. I have a few souvenirs, so if there's any questions or anything, you know, I only have a few, so I'm not sure how many people will be able to get one, but if you have any question, I'm willing to answer them right now.
Sure. How quickly do you have to record the findings?
That almost was about a month because that was one of the ones, remember I said that I had to work, around the clock, and it was very critical because you have to make sure that you give the craft plenty of time to rest and come back. They wasn't able to work around the clock. So I had to make sure, working with the team members, to make sure that they had enough people to work around the clock. And I pretty much kind of stayed out at the test site. I got in my shack, and I had some of my colleagues that kind of helped me out here. And they took my, leave, and where I would go in the shack and rest, get some sleep, then I would go back and do it. But we was able to get that done, and like I said, the rest is history in order for them to get the nuclear test done and make it the last nuclear test. Yeah. Yeah, Dave? Okay.
You remember, James, they had a ruling that if they left before, I think it was 12 o'clock, they could come back the next day and go to work.
Right.
And remember that it was like 2 hours to get to town plus going to
Exactly.
sleep. And where the driver usually was one of the workers, and then they would have to be back out there. So I remember at times, we may have gotten through before 12, but I would intentionally keep them over so they couldn't come back the next day.
Right.
So they would get some sleep, because, that was dangerous, I thought.
Oh, yeah, very much so. And I think with this event here, we had gathered enough members to work on this, and we also allowed them to go in and sleep in Mercury. So they would have to, as soon as the team member was up, then they came back out there. They didn't have to go back into
We
town.
were lucky because we had a hotel room.
Exactly.
Those workers had to
They
go
didn't.
home.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Yes.
Curious, why did it take so long after the detonation for the crater to start to form? And secondly, did you know how big that crater was going to be? Could you calculate that beforehand?
Yeah, a lot of times you get a lot of ground motion. The scientists expect it to happen pretty much right away. And if for some reason that it didn't happen, you had to pretty much sit there and kind of monitor the ground motion on the, in the war room before you let anybody outside come in. Because if you get a lot of action going, then you possibility that you're going to get a crater. But there have been times where we wasn't able to get crater when we expected it to happen, and so the managers would ask me to take a crew inside the trailer park, make sure that you have handheld radios and make communication in order for you to get out of there, because they had to get that data as soon as possible, or else it wasn't going to be worthwhile for the nuclear test. And so, yes, based on the calculation, we had an idea of what the crater size would be. Therefore, we was able to set the trailer park back and have a perimeter fence around there, and it would be the one that we know exactly about, maybe somewhere in about 40 to 50 feet of that. It shouldn't go over that. Now, if something design went wrong, that they calculated it wrong, then you may have a problem. Yes.
I assume for regulatory and safety reasons, after some point you had to lock out changes because you wouldn't have time to fully evaluate the impact. How close to the event did you have to actually lock out any engineering change requests?
Not quite sure if I understood you.
Well, so most large projects, people will, as they're putting things together, realize, oh, actually what we probably should have done is ... Or can't we also... how early did you have to lock out those kinds of changes, piggybacking, adjustments?
Yeah, and I think what you're saying there is first the data that was collected, it usually goes back to the scientists, and they let us know, and they would make the changes if that's what I'm understanding that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, for the test itself.
Yes.
Presumably at some point the specifications for the test are locked. The payload, the implementation package is locked. And
Right.
I'm just wondering, when you talk about having a limited time to start this, presumably you didn't wait until the ink was dry on every single piece of the design.
Yeah, and basically for the stemming plan, you're actually right, because we wasn't allowed to, I guess, stem the hole as fast as we can. We had to have time for it to breathe, or else it could pretty much kind of collapse, kind of create a vacuum. And with that, you had to allow time for it to breathe. And now with the two-part epoxy, we had to make sure that it's set up and it was within its range of where the gas blocks is, because if you didn't, it could cause problems and make it too large because you had to make sure you covered all those gas blocks. Normally they are in the range of anywhere from 10 to maybe 12 feet, and if it goes outside that, you can actually heat up those cables and cause damage to them.
Well, of course, if you think about that, when it was set, it would actually heat up the cable, so if you have changes in the amount of cable, and that all changes that.
Yes, yeah. You had,
No, I thought,
oh,
I was just gonna clarify here, I thought he was talking about the experimental package itself,
yeah.
which normally you have like a 30-day or 60-day freeze on the design, because yours is going down.
Yeah, mine was down.
Once you go down the hole, you can't make any changes.
No. And most of the one that you worked on was in the tunnels, and they could make changes if they had to before button up. And once you got it underground, you know, and with mine's 1,400 feet, there was no going back.
Lowering it down, and you have people running up a few days.
Yeah. Now, if for some reason, if you come up with a problem with that, I know we had situation where we had to go and put another nuclear device close to it in order to blow both of them up. And that had happened before. Not on my event, but it had happened before.
Hey, back here.
Yes.
Two questions. Number one, did you check for desert tortoises right above, before you set it off?
That's one of the things that we always do. We do a sweep and make sure that happens. And actually, before we even start the event, we bring out the people from the Desert Resource. They do the inspection, do any kind of article, pick those up, and give us the okay to go ahead and build our event.
I guess I could still wander into the subsidence crater, a few
yeah.
minutes later.
But you saw on that news clipping, we did have protesters out there, and they was able to, get them. So
And you
that
let
happened.
them onto the side.
Yeah.
No, the second question is regarding the timeline, with Divider specifically, but also with other experiments, about how long normally was it between physicists defining the experiment and then, to execution? Was that like a year, or what for Divider was it short?
Well, with this one, I'm not sure, but Divider was part of a code named Operation Julian. And that was about 7 different shots. Each one of those shots had a different purpose on what they was looking for. And this was ordered for this one. Divider was mainly looking at the safe deterrent. And the other one that I was working on, the one with the junction with the Soviet Union, that was a joint verification where you can bring in international people in order for them to look at, test, and see what the size of the yield is, so they can verification on both sides.
Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
When you were given the potential assignment of speeding things up, hit a new deadline, was there anything in that time period where you were perhaps given some clue that perhaps you were doing that because they were going to call a halt to testing?
Well, yes and no. I can't say that. I had hints about what was getting ready to happen. Yes.
What made you choose this career?
What made choose what?
The career.
This gentleman right over here is my older brother. He, like I explained here in the slides, he was went to Louisiana Tech, got his engineering degree, and started working out at the test site. And this was when I was in the 8th grade. And so he used to talk to me and tell me about all the interesting things and the projects that was going on. And I just said, this is what I got to do. And so as soon as I got out of high school, went straight to Louisiana Tech, got my degree, and headed out to the test site. And been out there over 40 years, and now I'm retired. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, yes.
James, I got a question, and then I want to just tell a quick story.
Sure.
You might have mentioned it, but depth of burial and the yield of Divider, do you remember?
The depth of burial is around 1,400 feet. the yield was less than 20 kilotons. Now for the one with junction, that was a little bit over 2,000 feet, and it was
Okay.
about 100 kilotons.
I saw your trailer park really close in there, so
Yes.
it wasn't a very large yield.
Yes.
This was a story I'd like to share with y'all.
Sure.
I had a personal experience on at one of the tests, and that was they detonated it. We were all held at control point before we could go to our forward area offices, and it was about an hour and a half later, and it had cratered. So we asked security if we could get permission to go into the trailer park. We're not going to go to GZ. We're going to go to the trailer park because we want to take measurements on the crushed materials in the shock frames. That was our job,
Yeah.
okay? We knew the crafts would be taken up apart shortly after that. We were very busy, so as soon as the test was over, those trailers were going. They were going to the next site. So anyway, the guard got permission. He said, yes, you guys can go forward. Go ahead, but don't go to GZ, just stay in the trailer park. Now the trailer park is 600 feet back from ground zero, okay? Now, we're in there taking measurements, standing next to the trailers, and I hear a rumbling noise. I look over my shoulder, and the chute that bends the cables disappears, and the dust starts coming out.
Yeah.
And this dust is coming at us, and it happens to come out 300 feet. We're 600 feet back, okay? But that close, with that 600-foot diameter crater collapsing 20 feet into the ground, that's another shock wave.
Yeah.
So I get up a little bit, I'm
You're
moving
right.
a little bit, and I'm set back down. That trailer goes back up in the air again in the shock frame and crushes back down into the materials. And that was a pucker moment in my life, okay? The reason they let us
Exactly.
in, there was no geophone noises, no indication it was going to crater. Also, the RAMs, radiation air monitors around the hole, no negative, so it was safe. It was
Right.
safe to go. But while we're in there, we don't hear the geophones when that thing starts dropping, and it catches us by quite a surprise. So that was one of the pucker moments in my working career there that I wanted to share with you. Thanks,
That's great, no problem. Yeah, Dale?
You ain't heard nothing yet. And what actually happens is, I remember one that was where we were on ground zero when it fell. It killed my superintendent, electrical superintendent, and I ended up in the hospital, and that's one reason I have so many operations in the back. But anyway, what happens is, the strange part was, I really didn't feel anything until just a few seconds before it fell. And the ground I realized when I felt something that bad things were happening. And I started to scream, everybody get out of here, run away from ground zero. Well, I felt like the Roadrunner cartoon. I took one step and pretty soon there was nothing under me. You know? But that's what happens. The ground turns to jello. It just shakes and then it collapses.
Yeah.
It happens within just seconds or less than seconds,
Yeah.
probably milliseconds, but it is a very strange feeling. And you know, it was almost haunting for a while because I remember the next time I went into re-entering, this was months later, when you'd walk around where all the cracks from the shot was before it fell,
Right.
that it was eerie. It had those feelings that, is this damn thing stable? And you don't really want to fall into a dark hole. But one thing I wanted to ask you, James, on Divider, you did that primarily in the Yucca Lake area.
Right.
And as I recall, the ground table in that area was around 1,100 feet in most cases.
Yeah, and we do.
Were you underwater on that test?
Not that I know of, but we actually do the geology, as you know, and it was approved by the scientists and the managers there. So I never did hear anything about whether it was hit the water table or not.
Yeah, because I did one or two, and we had we went down below 1,100
Right,
feet,
right.
and we ran into water. Fortunately, we were still able to do the shot and so forth.
So did you run into water before you finished the stemming?
But before we sat down,
Okay, okay.
it was probably not a great deal, maybe somewhere between 5 to 10 feet of water
Okay.
was in the hole before we got to it.
So what did you end up doing there? You backed up, stemmed it?
No,
you-
surprisingly, the canister, of course, it was
Sealed,
waterproof and so
right.
forth, was still wet at that
Okay.
time with the shot, which always sort of made me wonder, it would be like fracking.
Right.
Remember T-tunnel, you worked in a lot of the tunnels,
Oh,
I know
yes,
as well as I
yes.
did. It was a perfect example of fracking.
Yes, true.
Remember T had so many springs, that area, that every time we'd have a shot there, it would blow out, it seemed like. Remember Milagro? That was the one that a lot of people were hurt on, and several others like that. We did one was called the MZ, if you remember that one.
Yes.
That was an add-on to a Livermore test, and that was a proximity test to a nuclear bomb. See, Dale Glasgow was the physicist in charge on that test, and he was actually looking for a Nobel Prize, he thought, possibly to
okay.
get, because what we did was we put this, I won't tell you the material, I can't remember exactly all that was involved, but we had a definite distance between the bomb and this material going into the MZ experiment. And I remember measuring that out, and I think it was something like 5 or 6 feet. But it was a neutron proximity experiment to see if at that distance that this stuff could go nuclear, basically. Well, the funny part of it was we could never find out because it blew the whole tunnel apart. Remember, it went out into the alcoves?
Yeah.
We lost all the information. I kind of think it did go nuclear because it just blew the hell out of everything, remember?
And Dale Cox and John Halsey is the colleagues that I work for, and John ended up being our last manager. So we all worked together for many years. So we really enjoyed the time there.
Do we have any other questions at all from the audience?
Yes. And also Jim DeMar, this is one of the first guys that I worked with at Holmes and Narver.
Hey, James, 1981 was Stone Age. What kind of modern technology would have helped you back then?
Oh, that's a good question. At that point in time, I'm just getting to a point where I'm learning the operation, to see how things go. One of the best things that I would have said, we would have been able to get communication where we didn't have to travel as much back and forth to the Los Alamos, because every time something come up, if it's classified, I have to get up, fly, go back there. And so I would say the communication would have been a lot better if we was able to talk some kind of classified materials, so we didn't have to go and speed up the operation, get everything done quite a bit sooner. Yeah, good question. Yes.
Did you ever feel like your life could be in danger for what you were doing, the kind of job you were doing?
Yes, all the time. Because here I am, a young man in my mid-20s, in charge of a nuclear device. You know, they always tell you they are 1 point safe, 2 point safe, but I never got to a point like I believed that, because if something happened, if it exploded, yeah, you know, kiss it goodbye. So, but no, we was pretty much all very careful and tried to do the best job. We wanted to make this country, you know, as strong as possible. And doing this nuclear testing allowed that to make, we had, you know, the best deterrent system that we had in order for our military people, in order for our people that we live around here in this country, to make them safe and feel safe. Yes.
Oh, one more. Let's take one more final question back here, guys. Here you go. Yeah.
Just as a layperson, 1,500 explosions is a lot. So were they collecting, specific data points on each one? I imagine as the information adds up, you can then put together something that
Yeah, I
gives
think
you a
I
big
understand
picture.
your question. What had happened, we had like Los Alamos, Livermore, DOD, and then Sandia. And a lot of time with the laboratories, you almost have to kind of duplicate the same type of experience to make sure everything is working. So you don't give your secrets to them, and he didn't give it to me. And so we was able to compare different things that we did in order to make sure that everything worked properly. They had a system where it was a little different from the way we got things downhole. We use wire harness, and like with Livermore, they use string pipes in order to get it down. So there's a little difference, but I think the overall, the results was pretty much close together, unless somebody in here know different.
Well, on behalf of the Atomic Museum, we'd really like to appreciate and thanks to James Hollins today. So please help me. Thank you. Round of applause. Thank you so much. If you didn't have the chance earlier, Joe Kent, our curator, actually brought some artifacts that James provided to our museum that relate directly to his story that you just heard today. Make sure you get to check those out. James was kind enough to leave us with a couple little souvenirs as well. We might not have one for everybody, but if you want to come over and chat with us, we'll be happy to pass those out to you. And again, feel free to stick around if you have more questions. But thanks so much for coming in today. And again, thank you, James Hollins, for an amazing
And thanks for everybody for coming
Thank you.
out.